since we've seen our first guest today. He is president and CEO of Tourism Vancouver, but he happens to be the author of this fantastic book called Route 66 Still Kicks. Rick Antonson, how are you?
Hi, Rick. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Is this book 3 for you?
Yes.
Number 3.
Yes.
Why Route 66? That's probably the first question we should start with.
It was an absolute spontaneous suggestion. Travel buddy Peter, we were talking about going somewhere, and he says, what about Route 66? And he did not know where it was. I did not know where it was, except it goes Chicago to LA. So we said, let's go.
Let's look at the map then, and we can show everyone where it is. So this is the Route 66 itself. Is it the exact route that you took?
That is the route. Well, we went, Peter said, let's find all the old parts, because it began in 1926, decommissioned in 1985, because 5 superhighways cut it off, carved it all up.
Yeah.
So you can go from LA to Chicago, vice versa, in 2 days. You just got to get up, chase pavement,
the
right?
legendary Route 66. It is iconic.
Absolutely is.
You know, it's got all these stories. It's almost a thing of folklore.
Well, they say it's the most famous highway in the world, and part of that, John Steinbeck, when he wrote about the migrant workers leaving the Dust Bowl, the dirty 30s, headed to California, the American dream, he called it the Mother Road. That upped it, and then Bobby Troup wrote a song that Nat King Cole recorded, Get Your Kicks on Route 66.
The TV show.
TV show in the early 60s for 4 years. You know, that 2 guys in the Corvette all the time heading out.
You weren't in a Corvette, though. What did you choose
Mustang.
and why?
You know, we wanted a
couple of middle-aged men in a Mustang.
Exactly.
Why not?
There you are. I'm kidding.
There's Bud and Todd, and Buzz and Todd, and they had that 2-lane American morality, started every show like that for 4 years in a row, 120 episodes, only 2 of which actually were filmed on Route 66.
The rest of them filmed.
20 other states, and 2 of them were filmed in Canada, Niagara Falls and Toronto.
You guys, I mean, you start doing this, and this book it's such a great analysis of not only the route itself, but there's so much history of America and the foundations and the politics and the history involved in Route 66, because a lot of the highways through the U.S., and specifically Route 66, follow deeply historical trails, you know, the Highway of Tears, all these amazing things.
Yeah, the whole movement of the Cherokee from Georgia to what is now Oklahoma, but then was Indian Nation.
Yeah.
And then the railways moving along and developing, and often, you know, they would go around the lowest part, right? So they'd be tracking the rivers, and then the roads would follow those. And
it makes a certain amount of sense, and yet it makes absolutely no sense at all. And that's the beauty of it.
Now they're kind of flashing through the photos kind of quickly here, but maybe we can go back one and you can tell us a little bit about the route itself. And I guess in my mind, it wasn't decrepit and old and some parts unattainable like this one here, but how was the drive for you in your Mustang?
Well, our quest was to find all the old parts, and quite often that would mean going up and over bumps and getting onto something like this and driving as best we could. But the alignments shifted quite often. So when it started in 1926, some sections would be Route 66, and 7 years later there'd be a new one bypassed, and they'd never get paved, which is why we got stuck in the mud. Some were paved and then bypassed, and so trees would grow up in them, and it'd be really difficult to get along.
What's going on here?
This is Route 66?
This is Route 66. That stretch in Oklahoma was Route 66.
That is not what I imagined.
1926 to 1933. I was driving, Peter, clearly not the guy in the mud, and that was Vince, the other guy.
Where is
helping.
Peter in this picture, by the way?
He's taking the photographs.
Right,
I don't know.
He's in the car reading a book.
I had to climb under because we'd snowplowed, in effect, in the mud, and we had to carve our way out to get room to tie on a chain, and then Vince had come along after we'd been stuck. We were literally 4 miles down a 7-mile dirt road, hadn't seen anybody for 2 hours, and finally he came by.
Well, like
we'd still be there.
Like all great novels, this is very much you know, a history of a road, but also a history of people, and about meeting people and the characters that go along here, because there's a profound impact when there's a major thoroughfare going through your town on tourism, economy, everything else, and when that leaves, things happen as well. What is it like meeting all these people and having these conversations and finding out their connection to Route 66?
I mean, they'd talk about being 66th, about how the town would get bypassed and their economy would just stop. Now there is a strong revival approach underway right now that is about refurbishing some of the old motor courts and some of the old restaurants, the diners, which are just terrific.
That's the part I found fascinating, some of the photographs that you had and seeing all those old buildings that are abandoned. What was it like to actually be there?
Ghost town.
Did you feel that? You
Ghost
just must
towns.
just feel the history.
It oozes. It's an America that's maybe not as lost as some people think, if you want to go and patiently look for it. A lot of the old neon signs are now held together by rust and a little bit of baling wire. In many places other than Route 66, they'd be in a junkyard at the end of town. But right now, they're sort of junk disguised as charm. And it is so appealing to sense that there's history still standing.
Yeah.
And you can drive by it, and you want to drive by it slowly.
Well, and there's
Yeah.
all these little things that play into it as well, like the uniqueness of the road and the style of the road in its beginning, and that idea of American ingenuity and individuality. And then all of a sudden, A&W, Dairy Queen started along the Route 66, and now that has led to this homogenization. Like, it's amazing some of the stories that you come across.
Well, it is, in part, the building of America through pavement politics. Which cities get the new highway? Which cities get the train route? And then the construction of the highway, as it began, Route 66 was patching together bicycle routes. In fact, one of the main lobby groups were bicycle riders and the postal workers. So it would be private driveways that were connected. It would be routes through the cities. And as it all came together, they were done in different ways. Some of them were bricks, some of them were gravel, some of them were tarmac, just different ways of constructing,
Now, I
tying
know
it together.
that the drive was a while back, but would you do another road trip in a car like this?
You and Peter, there's a lot of great rules that came out of this.
We had one point, one of the rules was the 5-second rule. I said to Peter at one point, there's nothing wrong with our relationship that wouldn't be cured if you had a 5-second pause button.
Yeah.
And often we would invoke that. We'd just say, stop.
Stop.
Like, stop.
And I like the 10-second turnaround. Is that what that was as well? This is great for anyone doing a road trip.
It
If you
is.
ask which route you want to go, or hey, do you want to go see? You have 10 seconds.
10
right?
seconds. And if you don't say anything, then it's gone. So Peter missed seeing the Abraham Lincoln statue and all of the
Because he
famous
didn't answer
parts
in
of
10
that.
seconds, yes or no?
Didn't answer in 10 seconds.
Too bad. You could
Exactly.
just go back.
Now, I count rather quickly because I didn't want to go see it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Well,
7, 8, 9.
thank you so much, Rick. If you want to pick it up, Route 66
read.
still kicks, driving America's Main Street. Great photos, great stories. Make sure that you check it out.